Brahmanandam Paramasugadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvaditam Gaganasadarsham Tattvamasyadi Lakshyam Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namah. So, hello. Can you hear me there at the back? Okay. So my Dr. Gopal said that my last book is a novel called Shunya. But I'm not going to talk about Shunya. No? It's good to talk about Purna rather than Shunya. So there is this wonderful Vedic sloka that appears in the beginning of the Ishavasya Upanishad. We won't do the Upanishad now because that would take many days. But we will just start with the first sloka, which is an introduction to the Ishavasya Upanishad. And the sloka is, I'm sure some of you might know because we chant it very often. The sloka is Purnamada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnamaduchyate Purnasya Purnamahataya Purnameva Vashishyate. This is the sloka. Actually, it's a wonderful message from the Vedas to us, from the Upanishads, that we are not puny little beings that we think we are. We like to confine ourselves to the thought that we are puny little beings walking around here and there with our little petty interests, self-interests, and so on and so forth. Now the Purnamada sloka says that the supreme reality which pervades this universe is complete. Its fullness, its absolute fullness, it is, I would translate it as fullness or completeness, Purna. And it doesn't end there because that is Purna, Purnamada. But the good news is that Purnam Idam, this is also Purna. That's the good news. Which means, while that is Purna, deep down in our true essence, we are also Purna. That Purna, from that Purna, which is the abstract supreme reality, has come this concrete reality called Purnamidam, this Purna. Not only me, the whole world. And this Purna, it didn't say this Apurna, this Purna has come from that Purna. But even though this has come from that, that always remains complete. There is no change in it. The nearest thing you can go to in physics is that energy is constant. Can neither be created nor destroyed. You can change it from one form to another. So this is the wonderful. So now we have to understand why this has been said. If you look carefully, all of us, I'm sure most of us, all human beings, this entire movement of life that we have before us is actually a desire to become complete, to become fulfilled, to move towards greater fulfillment. If that was not built into our system, the whole of life would have come to a grinding halt. We will do nothing. Today I have something, I feel that is not enough. So I move towards finding more, hoping that I would become complete. Because deep down, somewhere in the core of our consciousness, there is this understanding, which we don't see it in the conscious mind, that actually I am complete and I have to get back to that completeness. Unfortunately, I think it is possible through acquiring things in this world. Suppose I'm young and I'm alone, I'm a bachelor. Is there any word for bachelor in the feminine gender? Anything? Huh? No, spinster sounds a little old. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, I'm a bachelor, and I think I have got a good job and I have everything, but I feel I'm incomplete. Then I think, maybe if I get married, then I will become complete. Nothing against marriage, I'm a married man myself. Then I think by getting married and having a family, then I will become complete. But we all know, looking at ourselves honestly, how long this completeness really lasts. In the modern world, it lasts only for a few months or years. But olden days, people stuck on and said, okay, theek hai. But I think that if I do that, then I will become complete. A sannyasin thinks that if he gives up that which he has acquired, he will become complete. They said that a spiritual teacher once drew a line and said, all married people stand on the other side, all unmarried people stand on this side. Now, those of you who are not satisfied with their life station can cross the line. Everybody crossed. The bachelors went there completely and the married people came here completely, because that completeness cannot be acquired through anything external. Today, I have this much money. I think if I have more, then I will become complete, more happy, more fulfilled. So I go on working for it. I get it, okay. How long does it last? Not the money, that happiness. First of all, the revenue department is there, trying to see how much tax can be milked out of you. And then the neighbors are looking. Now, here it is not so bad. You know how it is in our country. When the neighbor becomes rich, the other neighbor must be making counterfeit notes. Then there are jealousies and various conflicts. So we think, maybe some people get so fed up. They say, if I leave everything and go away somewhere, maybe I will become happy and complete. There is nowhere to go. Same thing can happen in ashrams. Believe me. It's not as if everybody, see, all people who come together, even in an ashram, are people like us. They're bringing their minds along. They're not leaving them anywhere else. So, while there is a certain semblance of quietness, still things happen. So, now we'll take one example. Suppose I think that I will be very happy and feel complete and fulfilled if I have a Mercedes Benz, suppose. Now, I'm not saying what I think, I'm just saying. Okay? So I work very hard. I took a good loan from the automobile companies who are always ready to make you complete. Banks are always ready to make you complete because there is interest coming in. And then I buy a Mercedes. Okay, fine. Sometime I'm enjoying the Mercedes. It's beautiful driving and so on. Then I'm happy for some time, until I see my neighbor with a Rolls Royce. Then that completeness, there's a dent in it. As if we had an accident on the way. Okay. Now, but we can't deny that during that short period, when I first bought the Mercedes and used it, there was some happiness, there was some fulfillment. Unfortunately, we think that it is because the Mercedes has come. Actually, if you look carefully, it's because for that 1 year, the craving has stopped. The mind is happiest when there is no craving. So this constant 3 years of craving for a Mercedes has disappeared because I got a Mercedes. And therefore I feel happy. I think it is because the Mercedes came. The fact is because the craving has ceased for some time. So therefore the ancient rishis said, the root cause of this trouble is our desire to become complete, to become fulfilled and so on, which is okay, which is built in. But to think that it depends on external circumstances. That if I have this, I will be happy. If I have that. Instead, they said, this fulfillment, this completeness that you seek, is part of that completeness from where you have come. If you can go back there, perhaps you will understand what completeness is and what fulfillment is and what actually happiness is. Not that you shouldn't buy a Mercedes, that's okay if you want to have one. Today I came riding in one, it's okay, comfortable ride. But that's not the be-all and end-all of existence. Our life is usually so short. Mine is not so short, I'm 69 already, quite long. Not that I want to carry on, but in this life that we live, there is happiness, there is sorrow, both sides. When we're very happy, the intelligent person knows that around the corner there is a little bit of sorrow lurking somewhere. Before you know it, it comes. So we have this constant struggle of wanting to maintain happy feelings and pleasantness and trying to sweep all sorrows under the rug till they become so much that the rug begins to look like a mountain. And we think it depends on what we acquire in this world. The Rishi said, sorry man, the actual happiness that you seek is inside you. And it is for everybody. It's not as if it's inside only one being. If it is in me, it has to be also in you. And it doesn't depend on what you wear or where you live or what you do. That's not important. The importance is to discover that this fulfillment and happiness, this purnata that you seek, is in the core of your consciousness and can't be acquired anywhere else. If this is understood, then the mind becomes tranquil and calm and goes back to the source from which it came. And in that silence and tranquility, what happens is, people think if this happens, maybe we will give up the world and run. No. Why will you run away? You can't go now. Nowadays, even difficult to run away into the Himalayas. There also dams are being built, various things are happening. I'm sorry, I have to tell you this. There was this gentleman. When I was young, I also ran off to the Himalayas. And I was hanging around Rishikesh and these areas near the Ganga. So there was this man from my state, from Kerala, who I have met him many days near the Ganga. One day he came to me very angry and he said, oh, this is a horrible place. There are so many ashrams and there is tourists and all kinds of people coming here and throwing plastic. I'm fed up of this. I want to find solitude, so I'm going away. I said, but where are you going? He said, there is a cave somewhere up Lakshmi Jula. I've heard. I'm going there. I said, okay, but don't fume. Go see what happens. So he went off. I thought he must be at peace in some cave. 4 days later, I saw him again there. I said, "Hey, what happened?" He said, there is no solitude anywhere. I said, "What happened?" He said, "I went to a cave there where I thought nobody is going to come. I meditated for a number of days, 3 days, and then I heard some sound. And I opened my eyes. I thought some being from another planet has come to bless me. Extraterrestrial, somebody. When you don't recognize or understand, you might say Deva has come." So he said some Deva had come. And I'm sure he was from another planet because he was wearing a helmet and all that. So I opened my eyes and I did namaskara and said, "What blessings?" He said, "What blessings?" "I come from the municipality to spray for mosquitoes." Blessings. This is the situation now. Where will you go for solitude? Will you go to an ashram? There is politics there also. I know one ashram where everybody calls themselves Om. No names are used because we are all same. But that Om, tone of the Om depends on your mind. When you are very happy, then you say, "Om, how are you?" When you are angry, it is, "Om, come here." It's all in here. It's not out there. See what I'm trying to get at? I'm not saying don't go to ashrams. Please do. In an ashram, there should be no shrama. Ashrama. If there is one place where you can live effortlessly, then it's good to go. I'm not saying you shouldn't go. But please understand that what we seek has to be found inside and not outside. Now, there was this great weaver saint called Kabir Das who used to live in Banaras. He made his living weaving cloth. And he likened this subject that we are discussing to the Musk Deer. You know, there's a deer called the Musk Deer. It's called a Kasturi Marga. In the Himalayas you can find them, the upper Himalayas, becoming lesser and lesser because many deer are killed for musk. So anyway, so the musk deer has a little pouch somewhere under its belly, and in a certain season, musk is generated. You know how musk is? Kasturi, this beautiful fragrance fills the air. And the poor deer, not knowing the source of the fragrance, goes looking for it all over the bushes and the forest, poking its snout into the thorny bushes, bleeding, and yet not realizing that this fragrance is from under my belly. Kabir said, that is exactly the situation we are in. That we are seeking the fragrance of the kasturi outside when it is inside us. Now, having said that, so what we have covered till now, I'm going to put in a nutshell. There is a supreme reality, if you agree. If you don't, it's okay. There's a supreme reality. Whether you agree or not, it's there, it doesn't make any difference. And a spark of that is also in every heart, in every one of us. If you need to find the fulfillment and happiness that you seek, you just need to turn in and look at that spark which is within us, the pearl in us. For that, you need to turn your mind inside. Most of the time, the mind is outside, which is okay. You need to work, you need to live, understood. But sometimes, at least, try to turn the mind within. Now this working outside is called the Pravritti Marga in Vedanta. The turning in is called the Nivritti Marga. It doesn't matter what you wear, where you live, what your name is, what race you belong to. The most important thing is, can we turn around and see the spark of the divine in us? And if somebody has seen it, that's very interesting, then you see it in others also. If you see it in others, then every human being, well, every living being, but human beings are special not simply because they can recognize it. Animals can't recognize it. Animals are intelligent. Don't think they are not. They're very intelligent. But one thing they don't know is they're not aware of themselves. The consciousness cannot be aware of itself. Human beings can. Yes, some doubt. I want to tell you a small joke for you. There was in a school, a teacher asked, can anyone make a sentence using beans, B-E-A-N-S, beans, what we eat? Beans. So one little child said, we are all human beings. In a way, we are all human beings, actually. Anyway, so, what did I say? Right. So, it's a wonderful thing that this all-pervading blissful reality resides in all of us as a little spark in our heart. Heart meaning in the core of our being. It doesn't discriminate whom it is residing in. Everybody is equal there. I always say, all experiments in equality, economic, politically, they all failed all over the world. The state where I come from, people are very easy to hold red flags. But that equality hasn't won, it has lost everywhere. But I say there is one equality which can win, where everybody is equal, which is that every human being, in the core of their being, has a spark of the divine, therefore we are all equal. Whether it's manifested or not, that's a different question. Now, suppose it is manifest in somebody, then that person sees it in others also. Therefore, every human being is a moving temple of God. Well, we can call it God nowadays. It's not fashionable to use the word after Richard Dawkins wrote The God Delusion, but we can say the divine or spirit or whatever. Nobody has yet written something called the spirit delusion, because most people after 7 o'clock are in the spirit delusion. The other spirit that comes in the bottle. So, this is the key. As Kabir said, turn within and see the kasturi that's inside you. It's nowhere outside. Okay. Now comes the question. You have said all this is theory, but how do we go about it? First, the theoretical background is essential. No way out. You have to understand the theory. You need a hypothesis, right, to prove a theorem. Like in the Pythagoras theorem, there is the base and there is the altitude, and if the square of the base and altitude are multiplied, you get the hypotenuse. Right. So it's a hypothesis. You don't know if it works. So we have just finished a hypothesis. We don't know if it will work. We have to prove it geometrically. When you prove it, then you know, yes, this theory has been proved. Now how do we prove it? All the great teachers from the beginning of time have worked out ways and means, and they said one thing: first, recognize this theoretically in you, and two, since it is an infinite something, no way can you access it through your puny little brain. We might think this is an intellectual study. Many people think the Upanishads are intellectual. Let me tell you that the Upanishads, the function of the Upanishad is to prove that the most intelligent man very soon realizes the limitations of his or her intellect. Which is why the Upanishads make statements like Na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vak gacchati, no mana, which means there neither the eye can go, nor the ear can go. So even the mind cannot understand. Which means the ordinary mind. The mind which is caught up in its limitations, you cannot expect it to understand the infinite. How can the finite understand the infinite? If the finite can understand the infinite, then the infinite ceases to be infinite. So then what is the way out? First, to understand the limitations of our puny little brain and say there is no way you can find it through intellectual reasoning except have a hypothesis. For that it is required, I agree. Then perhaps when the mind, having failed with all its circuses to touch it, when it settles down and says, I give up, then perhaps in that quietness, the chattering stops and that which is divine gets manifested. Some people arrive at it only after getting nicely beaten up by the world. Some understand it quite early and reach out. So what is required is the tranquility and quietness of mind which comes from the humility that I don't know. I can't find it through this limited brain. So let me quieten up and just wait. I think that would be called surrender. Because I know people who have read all the Upanishads and all the intellectual stuff, including Jiddu Krishnamurti and so on. I know because I have also been exposed to that. And then think that now we have found the truth intellectually. You cannot. When you begin to understand that you don't know, Upanishad says, he who knows not knows, and he who knows knows not. From that comes a humility which says, I don't know. Let me find out. Look at all the scientific discoveries in the world. How did it start? Because somebody said, I don't know. Somebody said, I know, then we are in trouble. Because also with I know comes a lot of ego, which is very difficult to handle. And as long as that ego remains, it's not possible to find one's true essence. I have not said this, all the great teachers have said this. It's understood. Apart from that, apart from the intellectual understanding, you also need a heart. You need feelings. You need to surrender. You need to say, well, I'm a puny human being. I might find out atomic energy, but this is something beyond my capacity. And then when I settle down and surrender myself, something happens which shows that you are a spark of the divine. Otherwise, the great Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara, who wrote all the commentaries on the Upanishads, all the commentaries on the Brahma Sutras, all the commentaries on various things. I can't tell you. Drik Driksha Viveka, Viveka Chodamani, hundreds of things. And after having written and said all that, being such a learned man, having so much knowledge, figured out that knowledge is a barrier. It's a good thing for the world, to exist in the world, to understand knowledge is good, important, but it has its place. Beyond that, it has no place. If you say, did Shankara say so? I would say yes. Because after all these various commentaries, he did a wonderful thing. He sang a beautiful song which is very funny, very interesting. He said, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate. It means, chant, sing the name of Govinda, you fool. Mudamate in Sanskrit means fool. I wanted to add one more word, but not usually used in civilized places. So he said, chant the name of Govinda, you fool. Samprapte sannihite kale, the time of death is approaching for you and you will be ending your life. Nahi nahi rakshati dukrana karne. All kinds of grammatical constructions and threadbare intellectual arguments are not going to take you anywhere. Sing the name of Govinda. Doesn't mean you should all sing the name of Govinda. What he said was that I have done all this intellectual business, and that I know that the way to touch that supreme reality is through the heart, not the physical heart. We know that it's an organ that pumps blood. From being sincere, kind, good, and tranquil. I think that would be the definition of bhakti. If you go into the Bhagavad Gita, if you're feeling a little sleepy, don't worry, I'll tell you a story at the end. Because when the mind becomes tranquil, there are only two things possible. Either it will go into a spiritual state, or it will relapse into sushupti, to deep sleep. Which is good. So another use for meditation is, if you have insomnia, lie down in your bed and meditate. Good. So, in fact, many people complain to me. I've started meditating, said good, but then I fall asleep. So I know exactly what's happening. You're sitting down to meditate. You're supposed to relax all your muscles and body. Then you think maybe it's better to lie in bed because then everything is relaxed. And then I meditate. So instead of pranava, we hear the snore. Okay. So, what I'm trying to say, what did I say just now? No. Story last. What did I say? Yeah, so, right. Got it. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a beautiful chapter called Bhakti Yoga. But it comes only in the 12th chapter. Very often people say, why can't Krishna say this in the beginning? Why did he wait till the 12th chapter? Why is he talking about it now? Because we had already said we would have been already bhaktas and all that. The reason is, you know that the Bhagavad Gita had 18 chapters. Have to go from one hole to another till the 18th hole. Even however good you swing, you need to cover, right? And reach there like a golf link. Well, there is no 19th watering hole here, but you do. So, first chapter of the Gita is, tell me, anybody? Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Which means yoga of Arjuna's doubt, yoga of Arjuna's uncertainty, yoga of Arjuna's insecurity, yoga of Arjuna's sorrow. We can use many words to describe Vishada. And then from there on, Krishna tries to clear his insecurities and confusions and takes him step by step. Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, and so on, Dhyana Yoga. And then finally, everything is going on fine. Like you're sitting here, I'm sitting here. We are talking to each other like good friends. Fine. Arjuna is asking questions. Krishna is trying to answer them. And then, in the 10th chapter, all of a sudden, Krishna changes his narrative. Till now they were like good friends, relatives and so on, sitting down, chauffeur driving him in, but well respected because he knows who he is and so on. Suddenly, Krishna changes his record and says, among the mountains, I am the Meru. Among the Achalas, I am the Himachala. Among the Munis, I am Kapila. Among the, and so on and so forth. Among the Vedas, I am Samaveda, and so on. Arjuna is a little bit shocked. He thought he was just like him, sitting in front of him, riding the chariot. And then he says, I am the mountain. He says, how can this be? This is the man sitting in front of me. How can he be the Meru? How can he be Kapila, who was many thousand years before? So what is happening here is, for the first time, Arjuna begins to question his so-called sanity, so-called, and his reasoning, which he thought was very clear. He was beginning. The process of Bhakti Yoga in the 12th chapter first begins in the 10th chapter, when Krishna tries to break down his ordinary mode of thought. We think we can understand everything using our intellect. This is ununderstandable. Meru or Kapila, who lived so long ago. So there's nothing wrong. So Arjuna is slowly beginning to understand, no. That is something else. This is not the way to look at it. And then in the 11th chapter, you know what it is? Vishwarupa Darshana. Suddenly, Arjuna, this man sitting in front of me, changes into something extraordinary. And his whole so-called rational system breaks. He realizes, I am dealing with something which my mind cannot understand at the moment. Then comes Bhakti Yoga. And the puny little brain fails to understand. Then it says, this is no way out. So then it says, okay, settle down, man. Let's see. Then Bhakti Yoga begins. And in that chapter, Arjuna asks Krishna a very nice question, unpretentious, what he has read and heard. He says, some say that the greatest of yogis or the greatest of bhaktas are those that worship the Supreme Being as the formless, absolute, unreachable, intangible, and so on. But some say to worship the Supreme Being as you are in front of me, being a little personal about it, is more important, is better, and they are the greatest of yogis. According to you, who is the greatest of yogis or the greatest of bhaktas? You must remember that in this chapter the word yogi and the word bhakta are interchangeable in many places. Some places Krishna says, Ya bhakta same priya. This kind of bhakta is dear to me. Some place he says yogi. So Arjuna says, please tell me, among these two kind of worshippers, who is the greatest? Very interesting. Krishna, as usual, instead of giving a straightforward answer, which he never does, right? Says, yes, worshipping the Supreme Being as the all-pervading, formless and Lord, it's okay, because great yogis and great rishis have worshipped him like that. It's okay. However, he says, we human beings are so oriented to form and name that it is difficult for the mind to suddenly grasp something which is beyond that. In the Vedantic language, it's called Nama Rupa. It says we all live by Nama and Rupa. If I know your name, I immediately register, this is the form, the rupa. Or if I know the rupa, then I know, this is so and so. So we live by that. Don't tell me we don't. We all live by that. What do we do in the morning when you wake up and look at the mirror? You go to shave. What do we do? What is the first image we worship ourselves? How many hairs have gone grey? How many more wrinkles have come? What can I do to keep myself more fair? Which is the best sunblock in the market? We worship our own form. So don't say we don't worship form. We are very much form and name oriented. So Krishna says, therefore, it's easier to apply something which connects you with your ordinary mind to the higher mind. You may not have a form, but you may have a sound. Om is a sound. The great teachings of the Sikhs, Satnam, the true name. So, there has to be something that you can link to understand that. You can't directly do it. But he says, it doesn't matter how you worship the Supreme Being. Formless with form, it doesn't matter. He said, there have to be certain attributes which the yogi possesses, which a bhakta has. If these attributes are there, no matter which way he worships, it's okay with me. Krishna, so Arjuna says, what are the attributes? He says, one, Samnyam Indriya Gramam, one who has control over his senses and emotions. One who has control over his senses and emotions. If half of us can live that way, there will be peace in this world. Also peace in ourselves. And second, Sarvatra Samabuddhaya. The yogi or the bhakta is one whose mind remains tranquil in the midst of all circumstances, sorrow, pain or happiness, heat and cold, praise and blame. Tulya Ninda Stutir Moni. For the Moni, for the great yogi, Ninda and Stuti are equal. You can't flatter a yogi. If you see him getting flattered, he is not a yogi. Because the yogi is one, according to the Gita, not me, sorry, is one who takes praise and blame as equal. You should also remember that when people praise you too much, the same people can blame you afterwards. And I think it's better, blaming is better than praising, because, say, for 100 days, if every morning when I wake up, you stand up and say, you're God. On the 101st day, I might start believing I'm God. See? Praise. There's an old Lata Mangeshkar song, I don't know if you've heard it. Meethi meethi baaton se bach na zara. Or if somebody blames you, at least you know where you stand. But you don't like it. We don't like it, not you. Immediately, you see that? So, the yogi is one whose mind is tranquil no matter what the circumstances are. Two attributes. And the third attribute is, according to the Gita, according to the chapter 12, Bhakti Yoga, the third attribute is Sarvabhuta Hiterata, one who has the welfare of all living beings in her or his heart. Krishna says, if all these three things are there in a human being, I would consider him Yaha Bhakta Same Priya, the dearest Bhakta to me. If these do not exist, no matter what kirtan bhajan you do, which is good of course, Sometimes what happens in Kirtan bhajans, the mind builds itself up into a high hysteria. When you go back home, it falls down lower than before. Now this is not what we need. Goodness of heart is the most important. Now, having said this much, I'm going to tell you a small story and wind up, so we'll have some time if you need to ask any questions, preferably on the subject in hand, and non-political questions. So, the story is an interesting story. We went for a walk, many of us, in India, from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. It was 7,500 kilometers. It took us around 1 year and 4 months. We were on the road. There are some people here who came with me also. So, in between, we stopped we had to stop in ashrams and other places. So in Karnataka, there is this very strong presence of the Lingayats. There are many mathas, Lingayat mathas. So we stopped in one of those mathas. And in the evening, all the people who were walking with me said, we haven't had a satsang for a long time. So I said, okay, we can have a satsang. So we gathered together. And I was about to speak when the Swamiji who headed the matha, quite an old man, much older than me, Shivacharya Swami, he said, I also want to attend the satsang. I said, Swamiji, this is for our people who are walking. He said, no, I won't. I said, okay, fine, please come. So he sat down. The end of the satsang, I asked him, do you want to say a few words? He said, if you say so, I'll say. Okay. So then he said, I just want to tell you all a story. Story is, well, please consider it a story, but it has a message. Apparently there was a very accomplished sculptor. You know who's a sculptor? Who makes sculptures. So he was summoned by a priest in a temple to make the image for a new temple. So when he went there, the priest told him that, something, your days are numbered. Within 3 months, you're going to die. I can feel it. This guy said, what is this, calling somebody and saying you're going to die in 3 months? You are the priest, so you must be having some highway connection with God. So tell me, how do I escape from it? That is more important. So the priest said, there is one way you can do it. He said, how? He said, you are such a great sculptor. Go back, there are 3 months left. Make a duplicate, make 2-3 duplicates of yourself. You are such a great sculptor, they will look exactly like you. Go make 3 duplicates, and at that exact time of death, you know what the story is, that Yama sends his messengers, dutas, who come on buffaloes. So that time when the Yamadutas come on the buffalo, you go and stand between the statues which you made. Those fellows are a little weak in the head because they come on buffaloes and so on. So they won't be able to figure out which is real and which is not. So they will go back. He said, okay. So he made all these images and went and stood in the middle, or somewhere in the midst of this. So the Yamadutas came. They looked around. They couldn't make out which is original and which is duplicate. Now the Muhurta is over, so they went back. Went back and told their boss, Yamadeva, boss, we couldn't make out duplicate or real, so we had to come back. So what to do? So Yamadeva said, I always knew you guys are weak in the head, doesn't matter. But next time, in 3 months, he's going to die again. This time don't miss him. But how can we find out? He said, before going, I will whisper a mantra to you. Take that, go and catch them. Okay. So 3 months later, the priest warned him again. So this guy, he didn't have to make, they were already there. So he went and stood in the middle. So there were 4 of them. The Duta said, it is time to go, boss, tell us what to do. And Yamadeva whispered something in their ears. Okay. So they came. They stood in front. All they did was praise. They said, so wonderful. Can't make out which is duplicate and which is real. The skin looks so soft, just like human skin. And so on. And the hair looks so real. It's definitely not hair taken from Tirupati after a shave. It's so real. So, and then they said, the nose is so well made, it looks as if it's breathing. This is really wonderful. For 5 minutes, the sculpture kept himself under control. When they said, even the nose appears as if it is breathing, he couldn't control. He said, I made it. So they said, come. Chalo, let's go now. It's time. So that I made it is the biggest problem. If that can be somehow looked into carefully, of course everybody needs an eye, otherwise we can't exist. If I don't have an eye, I can't speak. Agreed. But somewhere along the line, we should know that it has to be under control. So, I rest my case. If you have anything to ask, you may ask. Now, there is no guarantee that I will be able to answer your question because I haven't heard it, right? So when I hear your questions and when I think I can answer them, I'll answer them. I'm completely capable of saying I don't know the answer. Okay? Right.
Pranam Guruji. Two questions. First thing is that people say, God, whatever happens in our life, people, God does this, God does that. God controls your life. Whatever karma we say. Does truly God control your action? Let's say you got a job, or due to God grace you got a job. You escaped something with an accident, because they say, oh, God escaped you from an accident.
Yeah.
Is it true that God...
What is the second? What is the second question?
Second question is that, from the childhood you got habituated, okay, pray Hanuman, Lakshmi, so many gods.
Right.
So really all those gods exist somewhere and start noticing you, oh, you're not paying today to me, and sometimes you say, I'm born right.
Yeah.
On Friday if you don't do something.
Yeah. I know, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. So to the first question, if you lead a life thinking that everything is controlled by God, some people have some peace out of that. Whether it's true or not, we don't know. But some people get some peace out of it. However, I personally think that you should put it away and think that I must do something for myself. Whether God is willing or not, I need to do it. Because if you don't do, I would also recommend that you read the Yoga Vashishta, which is Vashishta answering the questions of Rama, in which there's clear indications. If you say that you are completely dependent on destiny and fate, you can do nothing. I had to run away from home to find something. If I had said it's all destined, I would not have run away. Well, others will say, you ran away because you are destined. These are the people who are always hung on destiny. I don't have a good idea about this. So, you're young. You need to do things. So let God do what He wants in His own department. You go ahead and do what you should be doing. Only thing is, when you believe that there is something like that, even you fail, there is something to hang a peg to hang your worries on. You can say, okay, maybe I'm supposed, but don't say, because I'm supposed to fail and God said I should fail, this has happened. Instead say, one failure has happened, let me try again. Maybe God wants me to try. So it doesn't matter what your beliefs are. The truth is the truth. But what you're talking about is belief. So it doesn't matter what your belief is. If you need to survive in this world, you have to put in hard work. Let me tell you this. If this is the case, then we won't do any sadhana. What is the need to do sadhana? God will do the sadhana for us. No. Right? Also, from here I want to go to another subject. Especially in India, we have this attitude of worshipping, which is good in some way, but there are also the negative aspects of it. Suppose I am a teacher. I said you should look away from the phone now. Hello? Can keep the phone. Oh, okay. Just record it, don't write it. I forgot because of your phone. Oh, sure. Yeah. Suppose I am a teacher, okay? And I know how to go to my host to Indra's house. Suppose I know the way. You don't know the way, and I'm standing outside. And you come and ask me, sir, how do we go there? Do you know the way? Many cases, of course, people who don't know also will start teaching you how to go there. Forget about that. Suppose I know, and I teach you how to go there. So, if you have to reach her house, what do you have to do after learning from me how to go there? What should you do? Tell me. Walk or drive. You need to go, and then you'll reach her house. Now, instead of that, if you stay at the gate and garland me, do arati to me, ring bells, and say, you are the greatest guru, you have guided me how to go to Indra's house, you will not reach Indra's house. So, what I'm trying to say, that the teaching is more important than the person who is saying it. So, like I said, to go to her house, you have to drive or walk. If you have a goal to reach there, you have to work. Okay? So work. Forget about whether God is wanting you to work or not. Anyway, we don't know how God works, so let's not discuss that. Now, the second thing about Hanuman and who should be. Actually, there are, according to Hindu system of culture, 33 crores, which means every living thing is considered divine. It need not necessarily be Hanuman or Ram. Every living being is considered to be divine. And since our attitude is to worship, we worship everything. It need not specifically be one thing. But for years, for hundreds of years, someone has worshipped divinity in a form. Now that form becomes a reality. In the combined psyche of all the living beings who belong to that category. So it does have some effect. It's not that it doesn't have. So, but you don't have to be worried that I don't believe in it, so am I doing something wrong? Nothing is okay. Everything is okay. At least believe that inside you there is a part of the divine. This much you can think of. And I also tell people, if the Supreme Being, I think so, but I'm telling you, if the Supreme Being is all-knowing, omniscient, omnipresent, so on, why do we keep asking things? Doesn't that being know what you want or what is good for you? So I'm not against prayer, but when you pray, my understanding is close your eyes, think the divine being is inside your heart and say, You know everything, do what is right for me. Very often, what you want may not be what you need in your evolution. You might think, if I get this, I will evolve. May not be. What you want may not be what you need. And if there is a divinity in your heart, that one knows what you need more than what you want. So sometimes what you want may not be the right thing. You know what I'm trying to say? So when you pray, say you know everything, or everything is known. So why should I ask? Let me do my work. That's a wonderful way to do. Otherwise, what happens? For every little thing, I'm praying. Today I couldn't, I had constipation, please help me. God is sitting there to treat your constipation. Right? So, I know I may not have given you the exact answer to your question, maybe, may not be, but there is enough food for thought. Think over it. Hmm? It's not possible even for me. You're not an exception. But maybe I'm better than many people, maybe. So it takes time to develop that attitude. It's not always possible to do that. By constantly beating the negative. Soon as it comes, beat it. Keep positive. But you are saying this. The other day I was in Google headquarters talking to them. And one lady in the front said, "What is this everybody talking about? Positive, positive, positive. I want to be negative." So there are different ways of, I was stunned, I didn't know what to tell her. You know what I mean? So if you think it is impossible, I wouldn't say it is impossible. So this is what, go back to what we started from, that there is a completeness from which we have come. Right? And that completeness also has a lot of energy, which in some ways we also have, little bit energy. So every now and then you feel let down or despondent. It happens, human beings, right? I'm here, I go to a party and somebody doesn't recognize me. I don't have this problem, but people have. They didn't recognize you, gone, you're down. Or I have a wonderful day. I go back home. My wife says, food is on the table, I'm sleepy, go heat it and eat it. Down. So, my wife doesn't say that, I'm just telling you. So, what I mean to say is that these are situations we all face. Babaji told me, go get married. You don't know how people go through this life. I said, but why, Babaji, unnecessarily get into this? He said, do as I say. I said, okay, fine. And so I've studied this. We all have to go through this. But whenever despondency strikes you, think that after all I'm a spark of that completeness which is in us, and turn your mind and be at peace with yourself. You'll see that next time it happens, you'll be able to deal with it better. It takes constant practice. There's no shortcut. Until you break through all barriers, and that's the essence. This may be possible. Right. Let me tell you something. Uh, it's better to find, it's better to have no guru at all than end up with some wrong fellow. No? So therefore, while you can listen to YouTube, everything, including me, don't get caught up. And don't be impressed by my appearance, for God's sake. Know the person properly for a while before you kind of begin to accept it. Just because you can do anything in YouTube, you can also do what is called, what is that? How do you, huh? photo, you can Photoshop, you can do many things, internet. So don't go by that. Meet the person and see how it is. Spend some more time. It's very easy for 1 hour, 2 hours for me to have a smiling face. Everything is okay. But see how it happens when you're with the person and under all circumstances. Right? For me, I have an advantage. When I think I'm floating in the bliss of happiness, when I go home and my wife says, hey, what happened that you forgot? Then I'm reminded, no, wait a minute. But if you're single, that problem is not there. So suddenly your ego might boost up. So you have to be very careful. You know what I mean? So don't go by appearances. And don't go by headgears. Don't go by titles. If you go by titles, there are Jagat Gurus, Param Gurus, Sadgurus, this Gurus, that Gurus. Go by understanding whether what is being said is reasonable or not. Check that way. And above all, don't accept somebody suddenly. Go about it carefully. Watch, hear, listen, give some time before you accept it. I would say the best thing is to remain independent rather than go into something wrong and then suffer. Also, even if you respect a guru and say, I think he's my teacher, he's wonderful and so on and so forth, understand that the body that is there is a human body and therefore there may be some weaknesses. Keep a little bit of your mind on that. Otherwise you'll suddenly fall down from a height and bruise yourself. And also find out if the guru wants to give you something or take something from you. I think you're a sincere guy, but you don't have to suddenly conclude. As far as I'm concerned, you can think like a friend, maybe he will be helpful. That's enough. I don't like this arati worships.
Namaskaram, Guruji.
I can hear you, yes.
I have a strong, deep desire that I want to realize that spark that is all over. That spark is there within me too, like you said. Not knowing theoretically, I want to experience it. But like you said in your talk, I'm not too much of an intellectual person. I cannot understand the Vedas or the Upanishads, or I'm not interested in knowing all of those things. Here and there,
One second. Whether you're interested or not, that doesn't mean there's nothing in the Upanishad. Okay, carry on.
Whatever little things I picked up, practices, I try to do as much as I could. I'm not a highly disciplined person. I'm not too much of like Arjuna, like Krishna described to Arjuna. I don't have too much of devotion. I don't have too much of surrender. I cannot do too much service here and there. Whatever chance I could get, I try to do the best I could. I cannot evaluate myself, how much indriya control I have. Am I tranquil in all states, every time? Even if I evaluate, I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
But you talk well.
But this lifetime I have got, I don't want to waste this. I want to realize that.
But tell me, after all the lists that you have given me, if you really think you're like that, then it may take many lifetimes to realize. So, can we forget the list and say that I have to find it now? Don't say, I don't have knowledge. I don't. Why don't you say, I have this, I have that, instead of saying, I don't have. You get what I mean?
No, I have little whatever I
Little is there, no? So think only about that little.
Little only, Guruji.
Okay, think only about that little. Don't think of what you don't have. Okay, there are lots of people who don't have but pretend to have. So you're better. At least you know where you stand. Great, it's wonderful. But now think of the positive sides. Say that. Let me not demote myself by saying I can't. Let me say I can. All you don't have to do, see, what you need is a sincere mind and a one-pointed desire to attain it. You have that. That's more than enough qualification for moving forward. Only thing is, don't decide that you should have it in 3 days or 10 days and 50. That is not in our hands. So, what I am suggesting is that keep that thing deeply in your heart. Don't let it go, that desire. No matter how much pain it causes you. Enjoy that pain. You think pain is not enjoyable? I can tell you there are some old retired army men who in the evening sit with a bottle and a glass of single malt. And what are they listening? Kel Saigal, Jab Dil Hi. They're enjoying sadness. Toot gaya. So, steep yourself in that and say that I have to urgently find and I will find. Don't say I want, I don't know, don't say that. Remove all that from your mind. Say that I will also find it one day. And don't fix a time. Okay, let me tell you this. Just keep your windows and your doors open. The grace, the breeze of grace is always wafting in the air. It doesn't come in because our doors and windows are closed. All you can do is that. Any sadhana is only that much. We cannot do anything more. We can keep the windows and doors open so that when the breeze comes, it knows how to come in. So, that's all you need to do. And the doors and windows are your thoughts that I don't know, I can't do this, I can't do this, I'm very... In the eyes of the divine, all are great. Nobody is small. Keep this in mind. Today when you go to sleep, say, tomorrow I might find it. Why say no? But tomorrow don't phone me up and say, I didn't find it. Huh? I think you might, who knows, you're a good girl. It's okay. I'm very touched by your, you know what I mean. Yeah, but that earning.
But earning is just not sufficient, right?
Most important is earning.
But I have to get it. I have to realize that supreme consciousness that is all pervading and that which is also in.
So keep it in mind all the time till it happens to you. People have covered many lives looking for it. Maybe you have finished everything and come last time. Who knows? Let's not draw conclusions. You know what I mean? Huh?
What did you say?
Okay, my blessings are with you, if that's what you're asking for.
No, I want it. I only want it.
I can't. Look, if it was something I had in my pocket, I would have given. Keep your earning and your desire for that alive all the time. And one day, I'm sure you'll meet me and say, sir, I've got it. I'm looking forward to that day.
Thank you, and I wait for the day to come.
Not tomorrow, okay? Don't come. Thank you. I hope I'm okay. I didn't say anything to hurt you, right? No.
When you were talking about meditation, you told that there could be two possibilities. One is to go to sleep, and the other one is practicing. How do we understand that where we are, whether we are asleep or
Are you saying that when you meditate, you are going into a state which you can't distinguish whether it is meditation or sleep? Is that what you're saying? Okay. The criteria is, if you go to sleep and when you wake up, you'll be the same person you were before. If you go into a spiritual state, which is called samadhi, and come back, you'll be a different person. Attitude, everything will change. I'm saying from the result of it, the effect of it. How to do that? you'll have to be alert that you don't let yourself fall asleep. There are no shortcuts for that. I also used to feel quite sleepy when I meditated because the mind goes calm and then you want to, then I say I lie down and meditate and that's the end of it. So don't succumb to that temptation. Sit down and meditate. And if you really sleep, get up, walk, wash your face with cold water and come back again. There's no other way out. Keep trying till you reach there. But from the effects, what you can understand is if you're deeply sleeping, your body will be relaxed, it is good for you, you need it, I agree. But you will not be wiser than you were before you went to sleep. If it was a state which is not sleep, but which is samadhi, or the higher spiritual state, whatever you want to call it, then you'll find that when you wake up, something has changed. Why I'm saying this is sometimes, for some people, the higher spiritual state in the beginning appears like deep sleep. Because of the reason that the mind has still not been purified enough for it to be manifest. So it comes like that. The sign you have to watch out is, have I changed after this? When you find that out, then you will find that instead of going into sleep, you're going into a higher state. It's by daily practice. There is no way out. There are no shortcuts. If anybody is offering you a shortcut, especially for a sum of money, run far away. You're not going to get it. I'm telling you. Because these poor guys who are working hard to attain it, are they fools? Is there a shortcut where you can do this and reach? No. There is no shortcut. Nairantariya abhyasena. Regular practice. I'll come back. I'll come back to you. Okay. No, it's okay.
They say that every soul has a purpose. How do you find out what?
Who said? Who says?
I've read in books, that every soul comes.
They may be wrong.
Is there a way you can find out what your soul's purpose is?
Our soul, let's forget about soul, because we don't know what the soul is, right? It's only a word now. So let's say mind. Better word. We don't know anything about soul except people have said soul is something, you don't know at the moment. Let's say, is there any purpose in life? Let's stop. No soul, no nothing. Okay? Is there a purpose in life? Yes. What is our purpose in life? Tell me. Why do we work? Why do we marry? Why do we have kids? Why do we carry on? What's the purpose? To gain happiness. Nobody lives on this earth to gain sorrow, right? We're all looking for happiness. So the purpose of life is to find happiness, to grow, to evolve, to expand, to become better, to become fulfilled, Purna. This is everybody's life. We are all looking for that. Fulfillment, happiness. Only thing is, we are looking for it in the wrong direction. That's what I'm trying to say. If you realize that what you're looking for, which is quite legitimate, can be found here rather than there, that no matter what you add, where you live, what you do, that can never be attained unless the mind becomes tranquil. Then you have found out the purpose of life. I don't want to say, oh, the purpose of life is to realize God. You say, I don't want to realize God. I want to be happy. Everybody wants to be happy. Even when I say I want to realize God, it means I am seeking happiness in the higher levels. So I'm not really giving up anything. I'm giving up the trinkets and looking for the treasure. That is the purpose of life, I think. Don't worry about the soul at the moment. Somebody told me, why is everybody talking about the soul, about the soul, about the soul? Why can't they talk about the shoe? I'll come back, sir. I'll come back to you. Let me finish.
Sometime earlier you mentioned that the normal mind is not capable of understanding the Bhakti mind, and once we surrender, that becomes a Bhakti Marga. So, does it mean that there is no concept for Jnana Marga?
Of course there is. His question was, you said that when you finally realized that you can't crack this with your ordinary mind, that's what I meant. I didn't say there is anything wrong with the ordinary mind. With the limited mind, and then we surrender, that's called bhakti. So your question is, so what is Jnana Marga? Right. Now what is Jnana Marga? Jnana means knowledge, wisdom, not knowledge, wisdom. Knowledge is the information that you gather. That in the modern world we don't need. We have Google. Why should we carry the burden of information when you can go press a switch and get everything? Wisdom is important. Wisdom is not knowledge. Okay? So, the greatest of Jnanis have discovered through their wisdom the limitations of their wisdom, of the intellect. And therefore, then the heart opens. Take Ramana Maharshi, one of the great examples. Right? You people think that, oh, he was a Jnani who was only asking, who am I? Right? You can't find out who you are by simply asking, who am I, who am I, who? It doesn't work that way. When the mind turns within and goes and tries to figure out the different layers of my existence, this is called finding out who I am. Simply by chanting, who am I? Do you think it's possible? I can say, I'm. It doesn't mean anything. So it actually means an enquiry, not a chanting. I would say there is no really ultimately difference between the two. I would put it that way. Because Ramana Maharshi, after he had, I have no doubt that he touched that. Whenever somebody read or any of the Bhakti scriptures, like Sri Prabandham and so on, tears would flow from his eyes. Why? So, in the essence, in the true essence, they are not different. There are only two approaches to the same reality. I think both are difficult. I think both are difficult. It depends on the personality. For some people it may be, this may be better, for some people that may be. We cannot make an absolute statement on this. Difficult to say. So, maybe your dad is that type of person. So he's right, perhaps in his own way. If you're not, then it may appear different to you. Yes, sir.
What we call today happiness, by achieving something, it might turn to be tomorrow. What's the way to get the happiness which retains for a long time?
So that is the crucial question. How? By turning within and seeing the supreme reality in our hearts, which is what Jesus Christ said when he said, lay treasures in your heart where thieves do not break in and steal. That, and unfortunately, it can be achieved even by quietly chanting the name of the Lord. This can be done. Unfortunately, we start chanting only when we are unhappy. When you're happy, you know from the Granth. Dukh mein simiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. See, this is the situation. If you are doing Simran all the time, Dukha or Sukh, then you have found the way out. I would say that. See, why am I happy? I don't know why. And I think everybody is capable of it. I'm not a special person. Please keep this in mind. I might have worked hard on it, okay? And there was the grace also. I agree, both are there. But I also put in my work. And so if I can get it, you can get it. Please don't think I'm anything special. We are the same. And I'm like you, see? Except that I have a little hair tied up here, but apart from that, that's because I like hair. When I was very young, when I was traveling with Babaji, I had copious hair that time. And he used to tie it up, and I also used to tie it up. And he didn't shave, so I also did shave. So we were like two Bairagis walking in the Himalayas. I loved it. Sometimes I remember it, so I just tie my hair up. It doesn't mean anything. Don't think that there is some energy sitting here and all. Yeah. Nothing there. If you cut it off, the energy is still there. It's better to cut the ego than the hair. Allow it to be. I think we should now. This is one of the longest satsang I have had. So let's wind up, please. If you oh, one more. Yes. Sorry.
How is it not blocking the conditioning inside me, which is blocking the awareness? How is this possible to see name beyond name and form?
First, I am saying that it is better to first see the name and form, not try to avoid it. You can't avoid it. Now, I can see your name and form. I am sitting here. I may be talking of the unconditional, but my name and form are very much here. So in our daily life, we have to relate to name and form. There is no way out. Okay. Having said that, I would add that in essence, what we should seek is the essence of what one is saying and not the name and form and the words. This is something that is very important. Okay, I'm sitting here, you have a form. Let's not think of Krishnamurti or anybody for this matter. I have a form and you have a form. You are sitting here and looking at me, right? I have a name. I hope it's a good name, M. And then from the name, and you have read my autobiography. You have read, so you have already formed an image of myself. Okay, so now the communication between you and me is a communication between your image of me and my image of you. I don't know much about you, so I don't have a big image. So, but you know, you have read. So there is an image. We are saying, is it possible to communicate without the image? Can you look at me as if I have come for the first time and I am talking to you like a friend? Is this possible? If this is possible, it's done. I hope you get what I'm saying.
So you want to see every minute?
Yes. Yeah, otherwise you can't store realization. It has to happen at every minute. It can't be stored and put up, locked up somewhere and then pulled out and put back again. It has to happen all the time. Moment to moment it has to be there. The teacher is only one who points out. That's why I keep saying, don't make the teacher more important than the teaching. Who will point out? Oh, you have to understand it yourself. Thank you. So thank you. Sorry. Thank you very much, and till we meet next time. Please think about all the things we discussed when you go home. Don't leave it here and go away. That's all I want. Okay? Thank you. Om Shanti Shanti.